So let us start with Nash therapeutic study streak, the remedies for today, and we are almost halfway through the Nash therapeutics, and it's been a very good learning where there are three or five remedies that we are discussing. Sometimes one, sometimes three, sometimes five, depending upon the content that Dr. Nash has shared.
Mhm.
And it is very important for us to
And it is very important for us to.
go through this book because it's going to help us get the confidence that we need in our daily practice. And more important thing is that there are a lot of clinical tips which Dr. Nash gives in this book, Leaders in Homeopathic Therapeutics by Dr. Nash. So let us go further with today's remedies, and we are discussing the remedies Helleborus, Cuprum metallicum, and Cicuta for today. All these three remedies are known for acting on the brain, and if we are to cure real gross pathological cases, we should understand these remedies and how they will clinically present to us in our daily practice. That is what we should learn. Helleborus, the first remedy for today, and Dr. Nash tells us that this remedy is not of a very wide range. By this, he means that it's not used like a routine polycrest remedy, which can be used for all types of complaints in the clinic, but certainly it is invaluable in certain class of cases where you will need to give this remedy. Advanced cases or advanced stages of serious brain troubles like meningitis, threatened effusion, or if the effusion is already present, Helleborus is the remedy that we should think of. Next, what Dr. Nash tells us is something which is peculiar about this remedy, and he quotes from the source book itself, so we are not misled, and there is nothing like a Chinese whisper which transforms the content of the prover or the original source books to the author who is writing the book, and which is very important. Whenever we go to any seminars, whenever we go to any lectures, or we attend online webinars, we often see that authors have been misquoted, or they are not properly quoted by certain homeopaths, which is very wrong, because uh, this is the important thing what we should always stick to: authenticity and reliability. So Helleborus niger, Dr. Nash tells us there are few peculiarities about this remedy in the source books. Number one being head is rolling from side to side on the pillow with screams. Number two, Dr. Nash tells us, is great stupidity or soporous sleep, and there is greedy drinking of water. Then number three tells us wrinkled forehead. There will be a lot of wrinkles on the forehead with the cold sweat. And we saw about cold sweat in Veratrum album and Veratrum viridi very prominently. Number four for Helleborus, Dr. Nash tells us, is there is motion of jaws. It can be involuntarily felt or observed by the person around the patient as if he's chewing something. Then number five is dilated pupils, which cannot be, made, patient cannot be made to hear or see, or may he may not seem to be in senses at all. Continual motion of one arm or one leg while the other lies paralyzed. It can be paralyzed, or it can be something that is just lying like that there as it is, no movement as such, but the other arm is showing excess of activity. One-sidedness, again here we see some trait of pulsatile as well. And then urine scanty or entirely suppressed, and sometimes sediments like coffee grounds may be present in the urine. So once he sums up the entire, key features of Helleborus and something that it is specifically known to act for. Dr. Nash tells us that all these symptoms call out for a desperate condition in a patient. Patient may die comatose or in convulsions unless the proper remedy is found. The first sign of improvement. Now, there are authors who will come and tell you that this is the remedy. There are authors who will tell you that this is the materia medica, these are the rubrics. But what will the improvement be seen as? How will you see the improvement as? Has anyone told you? Dr. Nash tells us in his book, the first sign of improvement is decided increase of urine, followed by subsidence of all the other bad symptoms. Very simple explanation. If you are giving Heliborus based upon the symptoms that we learned few minutes ago, or we read the source book and give the symptoms, there is a first sign of improvement that we see. That is the increase of urine discharges. Now once you understand this, you will be able to connect everything what other author has also spoken, and I have always seen this as one of the key features in many patients who are improving in different types of remedies, not only in Heliborus. Increase of discharges, which is perspiration, increase of urine, increase of mental thoughts subconsciously, especially dreams. And also there can be some sort of increase of some discharges. It can be from for the female, which is leukorrhea, or it can be some sort of other discharges in the body. It can be excess salivation also. So these are the signs of improvement. If you have given the right remedy, it is working well or it is acting well. And Dr. Nash has given this remedy in the 1000 potency or 33M potency. Now you'll be surprised to get across some very interesting potencies from this particular uh, author, but it is well worth to know that he practices in extremely low or extremely high potencies. Very few cases he has given in medium potencies. Next remedy, what Dr. Nash discusses in relation with the previous remedy, is cuprum metallicum. Spasms in all conditions, especially brain affections. There can be congestions, meningitis, apoplexy, which is an old term. Currently, we don't have this term apoplexy, but there is a term which is clinically known, that is stroke. So, Dr. Nash tells us that spasms will be found in all the different conditions, every condition, and you will see that there is, if there is cardialgia or pain in the heart region, there will be violent spasmodic uh, griping pressure, and this will be followed by vomiting. So now next he compares three remedies for cholera: cuprum metallicum for uh, you know such a case of cholera, and how will we differentiate cuprum metallicum from camphora and veratrum. So there have been many authors who have written about diseases prevailing at their age of time. For example, COVID was a period, and some authors came out with a lot of research, lot of books. It is well worth to come, because 10 years, 50 years, 100 years down the line, if anyone else wants to refer a literature about an epidemic that happened in the past and prove to the world how the scientific results summed up, it's a good idea. So Dr. Nash comes up with cuprum metallicum, and he tells us that there are a lot of cramps in cuprum metallicum in cases of cholera, but in camphora there will be extreme collapse, whereas in veratrum there will be evacuations and vomiting. So cuprum metallicum, we see that since there are spasms in every condition, we should know the pattern in which this happens. And once you understand this pattern, you can confirm with your patient or the relative of the patient about how this pattern happened. Number one thing is that there will be, suppose there is an example of cough given by Dr. Nash. What happens in the cough? There is cough, there is stiffness, breathing ceases, and there are spasmodic pitchings. This leads to loss of consciousness. If the consciousness returns, the patient vomits and then he recovers slowly. So once this process is understood, the patient will report to you with some end phenomena, which is after convulsions, it takes 2 to 3 days for them to recover. There are convulsions at times, but it takes 2 to 3 days to recover. What happens during the entire process of convulsions? If you want to understand, if you get to understand from the patient or the relatives, it will be well worth to record everything that is happening, so that your ability to trace out the picture of a remedy becomes very clear. Read about Ethusa, read similarly about Calcarea, read similarly about Stemmonium, Belladonna, and then you will be able to differentiate what is the difference between the convulsions or spasms of each of these remedies and Cuprum Metallicum. Next, what Dr. Nash tells us very beautifully is about this particular uh, spasms. And where do they begin? They begin from fingers to the toes, and they spread from it and become generalized. Farrington tells that mental and bodily exhaustion from overexertion of mind and loss of sleep also cause spasms in Cupra metallicum. He finishes Cupra metallicum with this particular mention of spasms and loss of sleep. And next we go to the next remedy, which is also again one page mentioned, which is Cicuta virosa. Another remedy which is excess in violent convulsions is how he begins Cicuta virosa. Patient is thrown in all sorts of shapes and violent contortions. Now, if you understand this, you will patient or the relative will tell you that when there is spasm or convulsion, the patient is not able to control and makes weird faces or weird postures, adopts various postures. That is where you should strike with the first remedy, which is Cicuta virosa. Especially bending of the head, neck, or spine backwards, which is opisthotonus, or such a situation is also seen in very spinal meningitis. Okay. Now he tells us about someone named as Dr. Baker who cured 60 cases of all degrees of malignancies without losing a single case, and he gave Cicuta to all those patients. Imagine, we are having trouble treating one case of COVID in our 2020. Here, Dr. Baker is treating 60 cases of vague and really malignant cases of grave pathologies without losing a single case. It should be commendable. Next, Dr. Nash tells us about convulsions during teeth dentition or worms. If Sina doesn't help, Cicuta is a remedy that can be thought of. Concussion of brain and spine if the spasms are in a train of chronic effects and if arnica is not helping. That is where we can think of Cicuta. If one remedy is not working, arnica is not working in such a case, we can think Sina is not working in one other case of dentition, we can think dentition with convulsions. Last but not the least, violent convulsions is what is the sphere of action for Cicuta. All sorts of tonic, clonic, epileptic, cataleptic, worms, puerperal. So once he mentions this, you need to understand something that is very important and beautiful. And what is it? That all cases of convulsions which are unable to get well on certain remedy that you are giving, you should give Cicuta or such small remedy as an acute or as an intercurrent. And you will see once we go further in Dr. Nash's therapeutics, he tells how beautifully that you cannot just give sulfur, thuja, or medorinum, or syphilinum, or sorinum as an intercurrent. It can be any remedy. That's why you should keep these small remedies in mind, and they will come of use when the other remedies are not working or the condition has got stuck up. It will open up the entire case, and this is how Dr. Burnett picked up from all the old authors and helped cure a lot of patients based upon the local pathologies and local glands. So, last but not the least, Dr. Nash tells us that there are skin affections which he has cured, and there was a case of a lady who had severe eruptions on the head which looked like a cap. That's where he gave Cicuta 200 potency, and that helped. So That's all about today's three remedies: Helleborus, Cuprum, and Cicuta. And if you wish to learn something interesting in 2025, stay tuned with Homeosetu, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, everywhere, and you will get all the information that you need to upgrade your practice.